Hey everybody, I'm the Ember, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this logo intro in After Effects. If you're new to After Effects and haven't used it that much, this tutorial will be perfect for you. And don't worry, I am still making Blender tutorials, this is just a one-off. So let's jump straight into it. Okay, so I have After Effects opened, and the first thing we want to do is make a new composition. So let's just click the new composition button, and let's make the width 1920 and the height 1080. The frame rate will be 24 and the duration will be 5 seconds. I'll call this composition main, and there we go. Now first of all we need to add the text, so I'm going to go up to the text tool, click that, then we can click anywhere on the screen and you can type out whatever you want. I'll just type out Ember, and then we can go over to the properties panel. If you don't see this, you can just go up to window and then down to properties and make sure that is checked. Now we have the properties open. I'm going to change the font to Montserrat, and let's go with Montserrat Black. And you can see that actually didn't change anything, so what we have to do is select the text first and then change it. So Montserrat Black, there we go. And you can see it's off center, so I'm just going to go down to align and center that. If you don't see this panel, you can just go up to window and then make sure align is checked on. So at the moment you can see we have this little circle here. Now if we scale this, just for example I'll scale it vertically, you can see it's scaling from this point. So this point right here is called the anchor point. It's basically like the origin point in Blender. So to put this in the middle, we can go up to this little rectangle box button up here, hold down Command if you're on Mac or Control on Windows, and double click that. Now you can see it's in the center. That is good. Now we want to add the effect that makes the text come out. So I'm going to go down to our text, open the drop down, go to this little animate button and click the circle, and we're going to add tracking. Now you can see that adds a bunch of stuff, but the only thing we really need to worry about is this tracking amount here. If you don't see that, it should be under animator 1 and then tracking amount. So I'm going to click the little stopwatch icon here, and that will add a keyframe. And now let's go to 1 second, and I'll move that keyframe over to 1 second and go back to the start, and let's turn the tracking amount down till all the text is mushed together. Now if we press play, you can see we have an animation, but it's not smooth at all. So to fix this, we can select both our keyframes, right click, go to Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease. Now if we play that, you can see it's a lot smoother. So what I want to do is I want it to expand out really fast, then slowly expand out a little bit towards the end. So to do this, I'm going to go to the end and I'll just turn the tracking amount up to maybe, let's go 25. Now if we press play, that's looking good, but the problem we have here is after it expands out, it stops and then continues. So we can fix this in the graph editor. So with one of our keyframes selected, let's click this little graph button here to go to the graph editor. And I'm just going to right click in this area here and go to edit value graph. Now we'll have this graph here, and I'll just expand this window to make it a bit easier to see. So you might notice this looks a bit like the graph editor in Blender if you followed along with some of my tutorials, and it's basically the same. So at the moment, if we move one of these handles, you can see it's not moving the other handle as well. We want to be able to move both at the same time, so let's click this button here, and then we'll convert the selected keyframe to auto Bezier. That's what we want. Now it moves both at the same time. So I'm going to move this something like this. I'll bring this one all the way out, and what I'm going for here is I want this arm here to be basically in line with the curve. So not like this where it's going off, I need it to be in line. So something like this should be fine. And then I'll select this bottom one and move that in. Let's press play. Another thing we could do is just pull this out like this. And that gives us a nice little ramp up and ramp down. You can go with whatever you want though. One thing I'm going to do is going to go to the end keyframe and align that handle as well. Okay, that's looking great. Let's click the graph button again to go back out of the graph editor, and I'll collapse the text. Okay, now let's add the circles. So this is actually pretty easy. So let's just go up to the shape tool. At the moment it's set to rectangle. So we can click and hold on that and select ellipse tool and then unclick. And now we have it selected. Now make sure our text layer is not selected. And then let's click and drag. And you can see it's kind of making a ellipse, but we want it to be a proper circle. So let's hold down shift and you can see it constrains it. Now I'll make it something like this, pretty big. And then I'm going to center it with the align tools. I'm now going to go back to the selection tool and I want this to fill the whole screen. So I'm just going to select one of these points, hold down shift again and make it fill the whole screen from top to bottom. That looks great. Now let's add some color and effects to this to make it look way better. So with our shape layer selected, I'm going to right click, go to layer styles and add a gradient overlay. Now we can go to layer styles, gradient overlay, and if we go to colors, we can edit the gradient. I'm going to make the first color, which in this case is white, a light blue, and I'll make the black a dark blue. Something like this should be fine. Click OK. Now I'm going to go back up, select the shape layer, right click and add a inner glow. Now we can collapse the gradient overlay and open the inner glow and scroll down till we see the size option. And I'm just going to scale that up. Let's go about 70. And I'll make the color a light blue. Okay, that's looking great. Now I'm going to collapse this. And you can see the anchor point is off to the side again. So let's put that back in the center. Hopefully you remember from before. All we have to do is hold down Command or Control, depending if you're on Windows or Mac. Then double click this button up here and it'll put it back to the center. Now I'm going to rename the shape layer by clicking Enter or Return and call this Big Blue Circle and click Enter. Now I'm going to duplicate this by pressing Command D and rename this Big Pink Circle. We'll open this, go to Layer Styles, Gradient Overlay, edit the gradient, and I'll make this pink and a dark purple. Okay, looks good. I'm also just going to change the color of these layers. This is pretty simple. You just click the blue square here, and I'll make this one fuchsia, which is basically pink, and we can leave the blue one as blue. And let's move this so we can go back to the selection tool, click and drag it, move it over here, and move the blue one over here. Okay, so those are looking great. Now let's add the little orange circles. So again, I'm going to select one of the circles, Command D, duplicate, and it's way too big. So let's just click one of these points on the edge. I'll click the corner one and hold down Shift and position it over here. Again, I'm going to open the drop down, go to Layer Styles, Gradient Overlay, and edit the gradient. Make the first one a light yellow and the second one a dark orange. Something like that looks great. I also need to change the inner glow, so let's make this a yellow. And we can do the same with the pink one. Let's just collapse that, go to the pink one, inner glow, and change the color to a pink. Looking good. I'm going to rename the small one to Small Orange Circle, and I'll make the color orange. Duplicate this, move it over. Might make it a tiny bit smaller. Remember, click on the corner edges and hold down Shift. There we go. So now we need to add some animations to the circles. So I'm going to go back to the start of our animation, and with the blue one selected, I'll click P, and then you can see we have the position, and I'm going to add a keyframe on that and go ahead to 1 second. You can see over here it says we're at 1 second, and I'll move the keyframe over, go back to the start, and just position it out of the screen. We need to add some smoothing to it, so select the keyframes, right click, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. Now I'm going to go to the graph editor again, and right click, and we're going to change it to Edit Speed Graph, and you can see we have a curve, and I'll just select the end point and drag this in, and drag the first one in as well. So we have this nice slow curve. Now we can go back out of the graph editor, play this from the beginning, and that looks amazing. Let's do the same with the pink one. P for position, go to 1 second, click the stopwatch to add a keyframe, go to the start, and move it out of the screen. Select both of them, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease, go back to the graph editor, select the endpoint, move it in, and move the first point in as well. Okay, looking great. Now for the orange ones, I think I'm just going to scale them up. So select both of them, click S to bring up the scale. Now I'm going to go to 1 second again, click the stopwatch to add a keyframe, go back to the start and make it 0 for both of them. And we also need to make these easy ease and do the same thing in the graph editor. Okay, it's looking great. I might offset these a little bit just to add a bit more diversity, something like that. Now at the moment, after the shapes come in, it's a little bit empty of movement. So I want to add a bit of wiggle to these, which will add a bit more life to the scene. So I'm going to go over to effects and presets, and if you don't have that there, you can go up to window and then down to effects and presets, make sure that's checked. And then I'm just going to type in wiggle, and we want wiggle position. So let's drag this onto our blue circle, and if we just go back to the start and press play, you can see that it is wiggling. It's just a bit fast. So let's go up to the effect controls and change some of these settings. I might make the wiggle amount something like 25. I'll make the wiggle speed, let's go 0.8. And we don't want that to be 1.8, we want it to be 0.8. Let's have a look. Okay, that looks great. Now I'll select both of those, Command C to copy them, go to the pink one, and Command V to paste. Okay, now I'll select both our orange circles and Command V to paste that as well. Now I'm just going to collapse all of these, and let's add a background. So I'm going to right click in the gray area over here, go to new, and add a new solid. And I'm going to make this a very dark blue. Click OK, and click OK. We want this to be at the back, so let's drag it to the bottom. And this is looking amazing, but we do need to spice it up with some effects. I want to add some glow and some noise, so let's do that. First of all, I'm going to right click here and add a new adjustment layer. So an adjustment layer is basically a blank slate that you can add effects on, and it applies all those effects to everything below it. So instead of adding a glow effect to each of these individually, we can just add it to this one layer and it will apply to all the ones below it. So let's go over to effects and presets again and search for glow. I'm just going to add the default glow, put that on, and you can see now it looks horrible. So let's change some of these settings. I'm going to turn the glow intensity down to 0.5 and maybe make the radius, let's go 70. We can maybe even make this like 0.35. That looks good. Now let's duplicate this and I'll make the intensity 1, and then I'll make the radius something like 250. That might even be a bit much, so let's go 300. And that should be good. Collapse both of those. Now let's add a noise. So search for noise and we'll just add default noise. Drag that in, and I'll turn the amount up to something like 15. Okay, let's play this from the beginning and see. Okay, that looks amazing. Okay, so the final thing we need to do is export this. So let's go up to File, down to Export, and add to Render Queue. Now I'm going to click this little down arrow here on the output module. Let's go H.264 match render settings, 40 megabytes per second, and I'll leave the render settings at best settings, and then you can choose where you want to save this to. You can save this wherever you want. I'll just name it logo intro and hit save. Now all we have to do is just click this render button over here. So that's basically it for this tutorial. Hope you learned something from this tutorial and found it helpful. If you did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and with that said, I'll see you in the next one.